Welcome to the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast, the place where you learn how to prepare your body for birth and recover well afterwards. I am Kath Bequee. I'm a pelvic floor physiotherapist, mum of 3, and founder of FitNest Mama. Each week, I share practical, evidence-based tips to help you feel strong in your body, confident and supported, whether or not you're pregnant, preparing for birth, or navigating life and recovery after having a baby. From pelvic floor and core rehab to birth preparation to returning to exercise safely and boosting your postpartum recovery, this podcast is your guide to a healthier, more empowered and stronger pregnancy and postpartum recovery journey. So let's dive in. Hello, welcome back to the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. Today, I chat with the lovely Mel, who is a 2-time member of FitNest Mama, and she shares her story today about her pregnancy journey with her second bubs, Riley, who is now just 3 months old. Mel also shared her story, which I'll link in the show notes, for her older daughter, Alice, who's 3.5 years old, and as I mentioned, she's been a member of FitNest Mama throughout those pregnancy recovery journeys. And today she tells us about her second induction birth. She was hoping her second bubs would not be an induction. She was hopeful for a water birth. Things didn't quite go as planned, and she did end up having a second induction with her second baby. And today, Mel gives some really insightful information as to how she prepared for birth second time round. She also had pelvic girdle pain, like pain at the front of her pubic bone. And she describes how that affected her and how she helped to support her body during that phase. And she really does we discuss recovery too, postpartum recovery, abdominal separation, how it is to be a mum of 2 children. So I'm sure there's some great insights into this episode today, especially if you're navigating pelvic girdle pain, either during pregnancy or postpartum, and if you're preparing for a baby, number 1 or number 2. So let's dive into this episode today. Thank you, as always, for listening today. Thank you for sharing it with your friends. Thank you for all of the ratings and reviews we've received. It really helps to keep this podcast growing and to help it reach more people. And I thank each and every one of you. If you want to come and say hi to me on Instagram at kathbequee.physio, let me know that you've been listening. Let me know what your favorite takeaway was. I would love to hear from you. It's a bit of a lonely thing, being a podcast host. You're speaking into a microphone, and I love to hear from you. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into this episode today with Mel. Mel, thank you so much for coming back on the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. You've got 3.5-year-old Alice and a little 3-month-old baby boy Riley. So back for round 2, the podcast stories.
Yeah, and a very similar birth story for 2 as it was for 1, as it turned out.
Is that a good thing?
Look, I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't labor spontaneously. That was definitely a hope that because I didn't do that the first time, that I could get that experience and be able to labor at home and sort of have a more traditional way of it. Yeah, but I just sort of had this feeling that it just wasn't going to happen. And I actually said as much to my mother-in-law, and she just sort of rolled her eyes, saying, "You don't know what will happen." I'm like, "No, of course not." But, I just feel like this isn't going to happen for me. And as it turned out, it didn't.
Isn't that interesting?
But,
Were you saying that throughout your whole pregnancy or just towards the end?
no, just towards the end. I thought that I would go over. So with Alice, I was induced at 41 plus 3. And she was like quite a big baby. and I was pretty over it towards the end. And um, the reason that I was induced with Riley was that he was measuring like 4 centimeters larger than fundal height from around 33 weeks onwards, and that was just sort of consistent. And because Alice was a big baby, the midwives were concerned that I was going to have another big baby. Alice's shoulders got stuck. There weren't any issues, but she had to be sort of scooped out by a doctor. And there was a concern for shoulder dystocia. So
Mm-hmm.
a decision was made to induce at 39 plus 2.
Okay.
And he was still a big baby, but it could have been a lot bigger if, he'd been 41 plus 3.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, let's go a little bit before that point because I'd love to hear about your pregnancy. You mentioned you had pelvic girdle pain,
Yeah. And that
and
started a lot earlier.
you had pelvic girdle pain for both pregnancies.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about that. When did it show up, and how did it affect you day to day?
I think it turned up right about the time that my nausea went away, which was also later than pregnancy one. So, pregnancy one, I was sick from about 6 to 14 weeks, and this one was from about 6 to 21 weeks. And then, pretty much when I got to that period, I started feeling like aches and pains. So, in the center of my pubic bone, it was, there were just sort of moments where it just felt like I was being split in two. It was just this really sudden, sharp pain. And then that just sort of got worse and worse. And then it affected more like hips as well as the front. Um, yeah, and it was I was trying to have like all of the pillows and try and get the right alignment between knees and all of that. And I just wasn't having much luck in
Mm.
alleviating any of those pains.
So you had it from 6 weeks pregnancy.
No, 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 that was nausea. Nausea from 6 to like 21, and then from like 21 onwards, that's
Ah,
when I had the aches. So I didn't really get
okay.
a break of like no symptoms.
I was going to
There
say
was
that
always
is
something
really
niggling me.
early. Right.
No, I'm not that unlucky.
Oh, you poor thing. Okay, so you had it 14 weeks with your first pregnancy and 21 weeks with your second
Yeah,
onwards. Yeah. So hit by a curveball with the nausea and then bang, straight into the pelvic girdle pain.
yeah.
Um, and is that why you signed up for FitNest Mama? Because you had the pelvic girdle pain?
Yeah, and I wanted to make sure that I was doing things that were sort of safe for me and not just sort of generic Pilates or generic, do it yourself at home exercises that I had a greater risk of doing them wrong and then exacerbating injuries.
Yeah. And how did you find exercising? Like, I guess how did having being part of Fitness Mama help you with your pain, pelvic girdle pain, and also exercise levels? If you want to really support your recovery after birth and feel strong again, Fitness Mama is for you. It's a physio-led platform designed to support your pelvic floor, core, and whole body. And here's the key part. It's actually best to start during pregnancy. Inside Fitness Mama, you'll find pregnancy-safe workouts, pelvic girdle pain support, and guidance that sets you up for a smoother postpartum recovery without guesswork. You can try it free for 7 days. No pressure, no obligation. Head to fitnessmama.com to start your free trial.
Because I'm not particularly fit, I was pretty limited to what I felt comfortable doing. But so there was a whole range of like exercises that looked really good, but there's probably only a small amount that I felt comfortable doing. And they felt like nice. They were mostly stretches. Like the stretches were just nice to get a bit of movement because I was just feeling so stiff and sore most of the time. But because of how just time poor and tired I was, and dealing with, a 3-year-old, I just I didn't spend enough time as I should have prioritizing fitness and or just movement. So I sort of would have bursts of trying to do a lot, and then just, life gets in the way, and then it sort of fizzled out a bit. And then I'd sort of have like peaks and troughs like that. So I'm sure if I'd remained consistent and had different priorities, which is easy to say in hindsight, but in the thick of it, it can just be really quite overwhelming. Um, but I'm sure that would have helped.
Mm.
And that's what I tried to do. Yeah, that's what I tried to do the second time, knowing that that's pretty much how it went for the first time as well. But again, I work uh, like over an hour away. I'm driving 800 kilometers a week
Mm.
to and from work. I was
Yeah.
just too exhausted.
Yeah.
All I wanted to do when I got home was just sit, relax,
Yeah.
go to bed.
And that's probably exactly what you needed too.
Yeah.
You're a doctor, is that right, Mel?
No, I work at a seed testing laboratory.
I don't know why I thought you were a doctor. There's another Mel in the program who's a doctor. Okay. So a lot of driving, you've got a toddler, not much time. How did
Yeah.
you feel mentally with that pelvic girdle pain? How was it affecting you, or was it not affecting you?
It was definitely affecting me because it was coupled with my big lack of sleep and heartburn, which was also affecting my sleep. Because I used to sleep on my back, and obviously once you get to a certain size, number of weeks, that's not recommended. So sleeping on my side, but still needed to have an incline, otherwise the reflux would sort of hit me if I was too level. But basically, I got to the point from probably 6 months onwards that I was waking up every 30 to 60 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm, I was pretty much like a zombie. Especially it got really dangerous just driving to and from work because I was just so drowsy.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, the sleep didn't ease up until he was born.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's hardcore. So,
And that was definitely affecting my mood.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
There were a few moments I just would break down and go, this is too much. And like, I can't do this. And I definitely decided I can't do this again. So this is my last pregnancy,
Okay.
and this is it for me because I can feel that my body is not coping with this. I
Mm.
mean, I'm 35 next month, so if I'd started earlier, 3 would have been, you know, good for me. I would have enjoyed that, but it's just not a pleasant experience that I've had in my set of circumstances. Like where I live, the help support that I've got available, the time that I have to dedicate to my body and my
Mm.
journey. I just know that that's not an option to have again. And
Yeah,
I've
okay.
got a boy and a girl,
Yep.
and they're amazing, and I feel complete. So
Yeah,
yeah,
totally. You know your body. Just out of
yes,
interest, I know hindsight's a lovely thing. Is there anything you feel, well, let's say you did get pregnant tomorrow. What is there anything you would do differently to support your pregnancy journey a bit more?
I would really try to focus on my body and try and get it in like a really good spot to begin with. So mobility, like trying to have good sort of exercise habits as a foundation
Mm.
so that like when nausea comes, so like yeah, the problem that I personally have is it takes a while for me to get into like good habits. And if something comes up like an illness, that stops me from doing that for, a
Yeah.
week. It's super hard to get back into. And that was what nausea was like
Mm.
because, I'd sit up and I'd throw up.
Yeah.
And there was no way that I could do anything until that
Yeah.
was managed. And that was through a trial and of lots of different anti-nausea medications.
Yeah.
And even then, like some of them will just sort of stop you vomiting, but they don't stop you from just feeling queasy all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
And that's still not a good a way of exercising. Even though you go out for a walk and you go, oh, that fresh air, that feels amazing. And I feel so much better. It's just sort of getting out the door is a bit hard. And
Yeah.
then once that sort of eased up, I felt sore straight away.
Mm-hmm.
And then that just sort of made me feel a bit down. And maybe yeah, let that affect me too much. And maybe I should have been not inspired, but I should have looked at that as an opportunity to go, okay, well, I'm going to start not preventing, but I'm going to try and not let this get on top of me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I did, and that's what I wouldn't do again.
Yeah. It's tricky, isn't it?
I would try to do maybe more research and try to know what exercises are safe and just do them as much as possible.
Okay, so this is probably, I probably don't need to have this in the podcast episode. Maybe I'll cut this. But I am fascinated because being a women's health physio, I help and support women with pelvic girdle pain. And I had pelvic girdle pain myself. And I know exactly what you're saying here. I would love to know, like, I hear exactly what you're saying. I guess there were a few things you're battling against. One is you were time poor. Two, you were energy poor and sleep deprived. And you just didn't have the motivation to exercise, which I totally get. Like, I have had three babies. I had terrible pelvic girdle pain for the second one, and it felt like you slip into a bit of a slippery slope where you've got pelvic girdle pain, you can't exercise, that affects your mental health, and you get more deconditioned, which exacerbates the pelvic girdle pain, and it's such a slippery slope. And that was probably the one reason I developed my app. The thing I say to women who are thinking about joining FitNest Mama is, like, I work in a clinic, right, where it costs over $60 for one Pilates class. If they don't show, they still have to pay. Like, they're booked in, there's a cancellation fee, it's expensive, they're committed, right? And although it's expensive, it really, there's so much accountability. On the flip side, like you yourself, you don't live close to heaps of services, I assume. An online app is amazing because it's so much cheaper. It's like, if you get a 6 monthly, it's like 20 something dollars a month for like unlimited classes. But on the flip side, you have to have a high degree of self-motivation or self-accountability because it's a lot easier to think, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, I won't do it today. Because you don't have, a receptionist calling you up and saying, hey, we've noticed you're not in the class today. We've got to send you your cancellation invoice. So I guess my question to you is, knowing what you know, and you just said you feel that you would have loved to have gotten yourself a bit stronger and, prepared for it. How could I have helped support you a little bit more? Like, how could an online app have been more motivating or more supportive or offered? Yeah, let me know.
I honestly don't think there's anything more that you could have done because I really liked how after completing an exercise, there was, um, it says, well done, you've completed it. There's like a tick, and then there was an email to say, congratulations. And then if you did however many, it like shows you, oh, this is how many you've done a week. And that was really nice. Like, oh yeah, I actually did do this, and that that's nice. Whereas if I just watch something on YouTube, that's totally different, and that
Mm,
doesn't feel as involved, I suppose.
mm,
And and so I liked that. I liked a lot of things. I like a lot of things about the app, but it still didn't really solve my particular problem of just there's just not enough hours in the day, or there's not enough moments, opportunities. That it
yeah,
didn't have enough opportunity to use it to its full potential.
yeah. It's a question I'm always asking myself. Is like, how do I make this? How do I help mums pick up the phone and press play on 5 minutes? Just five
Yeah.
minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes of movement to help nourish the body. Not for doing exercise for exercise's sake, but for doing movement to help nourish and nurture your body. Anyway, that's a bit of a side question. I was just interested. Okay, so you've had one bubs. At what point, yeah, you've got your pelvic girdle pain, things are, you're struggling. Is that fair to say during your
Oh, yes,
pregnancy?
definitely.
Did you, and if you did, at what point did you start to think about, I guess, actively preparing your body for birth and recovery? Or was that not even on your mind?
Oh, no, no, that was on my mind. So, following the first birth, that was through the hospital. I was induced. I had the balloon inserted day before. It was like very textbook induction. Started the drip, and at the end of the day, she was born. And like overall, that was still a pretty positive birth experience. There was definitely no trauma. I had a, a first degree tear, a couple of stitches, like minor stitches, and overall felt pretty good. Um, but I had it in my head that I wanted to have a water birth or at least labor in water, even if I didn't birth in water. And the hospital at Ballarat didn't have that set up there. So when I got pregnant with Riley, I switched to Bacchus Marsh Hospital because like a friend in mother's group birthed there, um, had a good time, and she had a water birth, and she really recommended that. It's like, okay, great. This is something that I think that I would like. I love being in the water. I love swimming. So I thought as like a pain management and mentally sort of calming myself, that's what I envisioned that would help me. Um, so I, yeah, sort of had that in my preferences of that's what I want to do. And I also worked on like deep breathing. So I listened to a few calm birth audiobooks and I did that from probably 30 weeks, maybe even a bit earlier. And then specific sort of chapters I got my husband to listen to. It's things that like sort of birth partner specific of things that I wanted him to do to support me during birth. So I felt really prepared uh, for pretty much everything
A-
that could happen.
And you didn't do this for your first birth?
I didn't listen to any audiobooks. I did like online workshops. So the hospital had a few different sort of topics that people would sign in on and listen to that. So the childbirth process I was pretty familiar with from a textbook perspective and then from a real life perspective. Um, I didn't experience the Caesar, but I knew the process of what happens in a cesarean. So if that happened, I don't think that I would have felt scared or shocked or anything like that. I definitely didn't aim for an induction. I did sort of want to labor spontaneously, and I did feel disappointed when he was looking too large and that was just looking less and less likely. And I was also just sort of getting pretty over it, earlier and didn't really want to go past my due date. Yeah. So like and it I think it turned out exactly the way it was supposed to. It was still a pretty good induction mostly. There was an issue that I had with one of the doctors who just sort of came in right before the drip started, or right as they were trying to break the waters. There was an issue with he kept bobbing up. So the midwife was trying to insert the hook to burst the membranes, and he was bobbing a little bit, and they were concerned that if they were to break the waters, his umbilical cord could slip through, and that would sort of be a bells and whistles cesarean situation. And the way that the doctor sort of was explaining this to me was quite scary. She didn't really have the best bedside nana. And the midwife was said that, this is a really low risk. And like, yeah, the midwife was really good. But then the doctor was sort of dumping all of this and then ran away. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a bit confronting. But all they did was just try again and it was fine. They
Yeah.
just pushed,
Yeah.
midwife was pushing him, pushing belly down. Doctor best the waters, and everything was fine. And
Yeah.
from the rest of the day, there was no issues at all.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And so during birth, do you feel what you'd prepared was helpful?
except laboring in water. So I got my birth pool and hopped in. Before that, I also had a TENS machine, which I hired the first time but didn't use because all of my pain was really in my in my front, like pubic bone, not back. So I didn't bother opening it. This time I had the same thing. It was all in the front, but tried the TENS machine anyway. I kind of just got annoyed by it. It was just sort of like another thing. It's like sensory overload. It wasn't sort of interrupting pain. It was just coming alongside my pain. And
Hmm.
I probably had it on for about, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes. And I thought, yeah, no, I, I'd rather just do something else. Um, I had a comb actually, like a really old school, big, chunky comb, and was just squeezing that in my hand for every contraction. And I wish that I had two. That's another
Oh.
thing that I would do again. I would have one for each hand. So I'd have one in my hand and then I'd squeeze George's hand. Um, and yes, no, that definitely helped me. But when I got in the water, I probably left it a bit too late. The contractions were quite intense and the drip was raised up. So because there was a lull or something at that point, and yeah, I couldn't get comfortable, I guess, in the bath, and yeah, was in there for probably a couple of hours, and then was on the bed on my knees, and that was good. That's where I needed to be.
And when you, um, let's dig into that a little bit. When you say I couldn't get comfortable, didn't work for me, what were you feeling at the time?
I was just trying to put my legs out. So this wasn't in a proper bath. This was a blow up bath. So the walls were, soft. And there were some handles kind of on the outside though. There was nothing kind of in that I could just sort of squeeze. I really wanted to squeeze things or tap my foot or that. And then in the bath, yeah, in the pool, it was, I don't know, it just, it wasn't helping me with pain. I guess I wanted to just sort of use the in between
Yeah.
contraction to sort of relax, but at this point they were coming on really, really fast. Even though um, he wasn't born for another 2 or 3 hours, it just in that moment it was just really full on, and
Mm.
I couldn't really brace myself very easily as I could, you know, sitting like squatting on the bed or doing something like that. I can grab something firm and
Yeah.
just I don't know, maybe I just felt a bit more in control.
Yep. Were the
Yeah.
sides so soft that you couldn't be full point kneeling with your arms over the sides like that?
Well, I could, but the handles were like really far down on this one. They weren't
Yeah,
like
right.
up on a spot that I would think that they should be. I also had continuous monitoring and and the drip just, kept beeping whenever something wasn't right and it was just yeah.
Yeah.
It just felt more in the way than anything else. So we tried it for a while and then went, let's just try something else.
Yep.
Like I sat on the toilet. I know that I sat on the toilet for a while, but yeah, that didn't really work for me.
Mm.
I felt more comfortable on the bed.
Yep. And were you able to, or were you trying to get into your own, how do I explain? Like, were you trying to, do you feel you were very like awake and aware of the external surrounds rather than, trying to like focus in on yourself? Does that make sense what I'm
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
ask?
I really wanted to get into my own sort of space. So I was trying to do a lot of visualization. Like I have, like in my mind, there's like a spot in the woods. It's an autumn day. Like that sort of scenery thing. I was really trying to put myself in there. I
Yeah.
had spa music playing as well. Earlier in the day, I had just like a random collection of not relaxing songs, more like energetic songs. And then yeah, sort of switched once they got a bit more full on with the contractions. I switched to something a bit more calming.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Okay.
and that worked for me.
So, even though you were induced and you had continual monitoring, and I'm just trying to, I guess, paraphrase what you just said, correct me if I'm wrong, you felt you were more in control when you were on your bed, when you changed up the music. What were the other things that really just helped, I guess, in hindsight, helped with your sense of control and helped to support you physically and mentally?
Well, I liked watching the machine, like the watching the numbers as my contractions would sort of go up. I probably felt like a sense of accomplishment whenever I saw big numbers, and like, and it, obviously was intense. It was kind of like, hey, that actually was intense. That wasn't just, me overreacting to some pain. It was like, oh, look what I've done. And I tried remembering mantras like, every surge brings me closer to my baby.
Hmm.
Things like that. I tried to get a lot more positive and welcoming. But I
Love,
did
yeah.
find that the pain levels were greater, number two, than they were number one, which I was surprised with. I, for some reason, thought that this is going to be easier. Painless, no, but easier. And no, that definitely wasn't what I experienced.
Mm.
Pushing, though, I'd say that was actually more painless.
Like so, pushing was easier. Well, let's go on to
Yeah.
that. Um, Talk us through the moment, like I guess you're transitioning, and then what supported you with the pushing and how that went.
So prior to that, I was sort of having a little bit of a rest because I was pretty tired and I was on my side. So there was either a pillow or George, or there was a stripper. Someone was supporting my like upper leg. And then all of a sudden that just became unbearable. And I was kneeling on top of the bed and like holding onto the top. Um, and yeah, all of a sudden I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And they are like, yeah, no, you can. And let's just do some shallow breathing. Like, don't do your up breathing. Let's do your down breathing. And um, that that sort of had changed into, okay, he's coming. And and the midwife, once his head was visible, the midwife said, I can see his head. I'm like, no, you're lying. For some reason I just didn't really believe it because I just didn't think that we were there yet. But it was only, I think, 15 minutes of pushing. It wasn't long at all. The first one was like an hour and a half, I was told. Um, yeah, it felt like only a handful of quality pushes and he was out. And there was only a couple of grazes, no tears,
Mm.
which was amazing.
Talk me through the pushing.
Yep. So like the first time with the ring of fire, I remember there was this threshold that I just couldn't cross, and that's why it took so long, because I was just really scared of that pain. I thought that my body was just going to rip in two. I thought there's no way that I could push her head out, and it eventually did, obviously. And this time, I think I was remembering being scared the first time, and so there was still that this is this is coming up, and there's no way around it. Like if I want him to come out, this is the way that it has to go. But I think I quickly sort of pushed that aside, uh, literally, and sort of trusted my body more, even though I had moments of doubt, like during the transition, I had like big moments of doubt. But like my husband was amazing, my midwife was amazing, and they were just a pair of really supportive people that made all of the difference. And I, I felt stronger, I felt more capable, and I felt more relaxed. So I wasn't as tense, and tried to remember like all of the things that I'd read about, listened to, and sort of put it all together and safely push them out.
Yeah. What you described there, I talk through my with my patients and I guess members inside FitNest Mama quite a bit about. You mentioned the first time you felt that ring of fire and you were scared. And what's the first thing our body naturally does when we're scared? We tense up, exactly. For anyone listening, Mel with her hands just did like the clenching and closing. And that's exactly right. And that's what happens with our pelvic floor. It tenses up and it clenches and it's like the doors are closing. It's the pelvic floor. When we tense the pelvic floor is zip together and lift up, which is opposite of what we want for birth, which is open and relaxed. And it's one thing I'm always talking about is, I guess, knowing and having, I think, I know this is the amazing thing about having, if you're able to have an have you ever had an internal pelvic floor assessment, Mel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not recently, but yes. Not
Like after
this.
your first bubs?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if anyone can see a pelvic floor physio when they're pregnant for the first time, having that confidence that you're relaxing your pelvic or that you've got a good relaxation of the pelvic floor versus zipping up at the pelvic floor can be really helpful because then when we get to that ring of fire, a really nice cue is, to check in with the pelvic floor and relax those muscles. And if you can feel your whole body's tensing and your pelvic floor's tensing, we know, that's a little bit counterproductive. And I think that's where that having that confidence that, oh yeah, this is how I relax my pelvic floor muscles. This is what happens when I tense my pelvic floor. Because otherwise you can get it so in your head and that fear, like, yeah, you're absolutely right, Mel. That fear does overtake. And I remember that happening for my first bubs too, where you can feel your body go into that um, state of tension. And it's very hard to control it, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's pretty much involuntary until you sort of tell yourself it's okay, and just have to somehow find a way to relax
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
bear down and try and do it as safely as possible.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. So the bubs second time, you only had a few grazes, you mentioned.
Yeah.
The first bubs you had a second degree tear, was it?
Well, they told me it was first, but there was some stitches, so maybe
Yeah.
it was second
Yeah.
after all.
Okay. Yeah. How did you feel straight after you'd given birth to Riley?
Pretty good, I think. Um, so it was sort of like late in the day. He, a quarter to 8 p.m. he came out, and I I felt pretty comfortable just sort of like having him on my chest and just staying put for a while. And then eventually was encouraged to go like walk to the shower, and was I was pretty wobbly, but I felt good. And I remember the first time like doing a wee after Alice was born, that hurt so much. There was so much burning, and for a few weeks after, even at home, it was just this like, big burning. And this time I had a like a peri bottle, the
Hmm.
squeezy. Yep. And I had that ready, thinking I'm gonna make sure that you know I'm gonna ease that pain off as much as I can. But I didn't have any stinging really this time, which was really good. uh, so that part was fine. Injury wise, though, I had gone for we'd gone to the zoo 2 days before he was born. We went to Werribee Zoo as a sort of last, it's the three of us type family outing. And there was a lot of standing, a lot of walking that day. And it was just a really poor decision that was entirely my suggestion that we do. And I injured my SIJ. And for about 2 weeks postpartum, I couldn't walk properly and was going through rehab with the physio. I was wearing a support belt, doing specific exercises until that sort of righted itself slowly. Um, so yeah, I was sort of hoping that, like with Alice, as soon as she was out, the pelvic girdle pain sort of miraculously disappeared, but that didn't really happen because of all of the other hip pain that like yeah, pelvic pain that I was experiencing. So unrelated to birth, but not helped by birth.
Did you feel the SIJ, like your pelvic pain during birth when you're in labor?
I don't really remember. I think I
Mm.
was just really
Yeah.
focusing on the contractions than
Yeah.
anything else. That overrode any
Yeah.
other discomfort.
And I think that's quite reassuring to hear. And I've never, out of all the women I've helped support with pelvic girdle pain during pregnancy, when I've spoken to them after birth, none of them, I don't remember one person saying it affected what happened during birth or I was aware of it during birth. So I think that's really reassuring.
Yeah.
And so how was the SIJ early postpartum, like in those first few days and weeks?
Well, that was really hard just getting around
Oh,
because
so
every
that's
time
when it
I
was
would,
so, okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So getting around was really hard, and I needed
Yeah.
a lot of support to like, yeah, to not lift anything,
Yeah, yeah.
and yeah.
And you're 3 months, 3.5 months postpartum now. How long did it take to subside?
Oh, it was only probably intense for about 2 weeks, and then I had treatment. So a physio um, did massage realignment, but whatever it is that they do that was sort of touching
Yeah.
me.
Okay.
And then I was wearing a belt pretty much any time that I was on my feet. I'd take it off while sitting down, but anytime I was standing or walking, I'd wear a belt like low along my hips,
Yeah.
and that really helped. And doing very light exercises
Yeah, great.
because I also had 6 centimeters of abdominal separation,
Okay. Yep.
and the
And
midwife,
in at
sorry,
what stage was that assessed?
oh, like immediately post birth.
Okay. And what would you say it is now?
The physio that I was seeing maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, she said it's 2 fingers.
Okay, so that's back to normal.
Yeah, because the midwife when she assessed me, she said make sure that you do like safe, but make sure that you do like reconnection specific exercises
Hmm.
like in a few days, like start them in a few days. And she said that there's, this window of, up to 12 weeks or something that is going to give you the best chance of having like knitting together
Yeah.
than if you just sort of leave it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, okay, I'm really scared about this. So I'm going to make sure that I do this. There was a lot of things that maybe I got a bit slack on, but I'm going to make sure that I protect my core.
And did you do the 0 to 6 week exercise, like connect exercises in
Yes,
FitNest Mama?
yes, definitely.
How
So
did you
there was
find
also
them?
like a leaflet from the midwife,
Yeah.
which was, I guess, more just the core as opposed to core and pelvic floor. But no, I really liked those.
I think
Yeah.
that's what people like the most in the whole program. It's the 0 to 6 week exercises. And the reason they're in there is because I don't even call them exercises. They're functional, really safe movements. Um, if there's been massive medical complications, like of course check in with your doctor, but for the majority of women, they're movements that we do sort of all day, every day, anyway. But it's a long time to wait from 0 weeks to 6 weeks to not move the body, not exercise. You can get really deconditioned. And we know with more and more research, as you said, like with diastasis and abdominal muscle separation, we actually want to be working those abdominal muscles sooner rather than later. Like we don't, that whole notion of let them rest for 6 weeks and don't do sit-ups for 6 weeks, that's very old advice that's not supporting your postnatal recovery. So I'm glad you found those useful. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're on the road to recovery, Mel. Your pelvic girdle pain's settled, your abdominal muscle separation's settled. How's the pelvic floor side of things?
It's probably halfway to where it should be, but it's not that dissimilar to before getting pregnant the second time. So I experienced a lot of leaking while sneezing or coughing. So not normal leaking. If only there was like a lot of downward pressure. So if I was sick and I had, 5 sneezes in a row, I would definitely get some leaking towards the end, or if I was was coughing, more than once or twice. Um, and that's probably still happening now. Um, yeah, and that's something that I try to work towards, but I just keep forgetting. There's all of these things that I think that I need to do, and I used to do them a lot while driving because it was easy to remember while driving. But now that I'm on maternity leave and I don't drive regularly, it's very much like out of my mind until I have a coughing or sneezing fit and then go, oh, I need to work on that.
Yeah. That's why, yeah, look, I absolutely agree. My tip would be maybe after you've gone to the toilet, you're in a room, hopefully by yourself, not always. Perhaps a little bit more likely. So stay there for an extra minute to do some quick exercises before you leave the room because it's just, and then it's a cue. Like you've gone to
Yeah.
the toilet, okay, keep the door locked if you can. If not, unless they're already crawling all over you. But yeah, so toilet is one tip. And then the other tip is that's why I do the pelvic floor exercises after the end of every workout, because at least then you've done a set of, you're like killing two birds with one stone. So, you do a 10-minute workout and you got your minute of pelvic floor exercises at the end. So,
Yeah.
and the other
That's
tip would
another
be
thing I really like.
don't do the workouts when your babies are asleep. Don't wait for your kids to have a nap. Like that's where I always think when it's nap time, that's your time. And you've got a 3.5-year-old toddler, so you probably don't have any time. But for anyone listening, I think that nap time is so important for you to have, even if it's quiet time with your three-year-old, lie down, read a book, whatever. So I like to do the jobs when babies are awake, involve bubs in the workout, do the mums and bubs workout, even if it's just 5 minutes. They love it. They climb all over you. It's a bit of almost like a playtime.
Yeah.
Um, and then a little bit of pelvic floor at the end. And you're doing such a good job, Mel. Like it's one building block in front of the other. And sure, it might take a while for those building blocks to build up, but every single building block, every time you do some pelvic floor exercises or do a workout or go for a walk, it's a small building block. And that's your road to recovery. And you don't need to, you know, do it quickly. Like you've got to do it in your time. And we don't need any more guilt in life, do we?
No. And I probably had it in my head that I needed a full 20 minutes minimum, like uninterrupted. And that was just almost never going to happen.
Mm.
But and so I had to reframe that for me in that something is better than nothing. And if I can do, if I can just do 5 minutes, well then that's 5 minutes more than I would have done otherwise.
Mm.
And every little bit helps.
Yeah. Even mentally. 5
Yes, definitely
minutes.
mentally.
You can, yeah. Okay. I'd love to know, you've got th two children. Were there moments where you consciously, I guess, held back or listened to your body more than first time around?
With regards to pregnancy,
Recovery.
birth, postpartum.
Yeah.
No, I think I sort of I knew what I needed to prioritize and I knew what I needed to let go of. I think really the biggest challenge was adjusting from one to two.
Hmm.
And like we've had a lot of challenges with the 3-year-old. Um, you know, big feelings and like she loves the baby, but hasn't loved the lack of attention that just naturally follows. And that was quite hard initially
Yeah.
postpartum.
Yeah.
Because we had some like breastfeeding issues as well. He had a lip and tongue tie, and we were navigating getting that released and his stretches and like my physical recovery as well. It was all just a little bit much. Um, but yeah, so for my situation, that was the biggest challenge
Mm.
as well. Yeah,
And how's that panning out? Are things
things have definitely settled down. Yeah, and also like he's a bit more robust now, so Alice is sort of fiercely affectionate and will try and give really rough cuddles and kisses, and
I
it's
remember
all really
that.
lovely.
Yeah.
But when he's like only a week old,
Yeah.
and especially because she was going to daycare and they'd pick up bugs, and I really just wanted to keep him
Yeah.
safe and
Don't
illness
squeeze your
free.
newborn brother. He's gonna
Don't
pop.
squeeze him. Exactly. And ended up saying no a lot and felt really guilty.
Yeah.
And then it was sort of this cycle when all she was just trying to do was just show love, but it resulted in meltdowns because we were saying no.
With the benefit of hindsight, were there any particular way to phrase it with your 3-year-old that worked?
In the moment, no, I was probably just a bit too sleep deprived and stressed out and didn't, yeah, handle it as well as I would have liked to. But I would have tried to suggest alternatives. So
Yeah.
I would have said, um, go find one of your books and like show them the pictures of this book, or do you want to pick out, his next suit, like clothes? Can you pass me the nap? I would try and get her involved in ways that she still feels
Yeah.
important, connected,
Yeah.
that aren't making him injured.
I I I remember doing exactly what you just said, helping with tasks, getting nappies for the baby. I also remember saying, instead of squeezing out, baby sister, let's pat her on the head. But even that sometimes didn't work because she'd go pat, pat, like
Quack, quack, quack.
bang, bang, bang. Oh my gosh, tricky.
Yeah, but it didn't last for that long.
Yeah.
It was like the first few weeks were a big adjustment, and like obviously that's natural because she went from being the only person to
Mm,
having a brother,
yeah.
and she told one of the educators at daycare that she wants the baby to go back in mummy's tummy. And I'm
Oh,
like, no,
that ain't
not
happening.
not going back. Nobody's coming back.
Well, Mel, that's just an insight to all the years of sibling squabbles that you're going to have. And I'm talking, as a mum of a 13, 11, and 8-year-old, I wish I could say it gets better, but it doesn't. I'm still navigating that one. Oh dear. Two more questions.
Yep.
When you compare your first and second recoveries, postpartum recoveries, what stands out the most?
I think it bounced back a lot quicker after pregnancy number one, which sort of makes sense because like my body accommodated a child once, and I was also younger. And this time I'm older, and my body has already sort of
Mm-hmm.
gotten bigger, stretched, didn't quite go back to how it was. And I wasn't particularly slim or toned the first time. And I've still got quite a droopy sort of pouch going on, which I felt quite down about initially. It's also still quite soft. So even though like my abdominals have come together, there's like a bit of, just stretched tissue, abdominal fat that's just sort of there at the front. I've also still got the line, like the dark line. Can't really remember how long it takes for that to go away. But my body still kind of looks postpartum to me. It doesn't look like this is, my body most of my life. It's sort of still going back, I think. Um, but I still feel more optimistic this time, even though I'm probably further away from my goal of how strong I want to be and how healthy I am. I feel like I can get there probably more than I did after the first
Yeah.
pregnancy.
And I just want to add, you're 3 months postpartum. And I always say to my mums, you've got the rest of your life to get fit and strong and active again. You're just now emerging from that early postpartum where actually the best thing you can do to support your recovery is, to do less and rest and recuperate. And like you're setting it's not just muscles that get stretched, it's all the fascia and the connective tissue. And you can't strengthen that fast, stronger. You have to let time knit it over. It's like an elastic pelvic floor abdominals, it's like a stretched elastic band. And we want that natural recoil to occur. And we need to be, not up against gravity the whole time, like not putting it under extra load because that will keep it in its lengthened position. So, you've done everything right and you're only 3 months. And I think sometimes it can be easy to lose, you think yourself as postpartum and you should be recovered, but really your recovery is just getting started. To wrap up, couple of questions. Just really one little thing. Is there anything you wish you'd known earlier about preparing your body for birth or pregnancy, birth and recovery?
Probably not that I'd wish I'd known earlier, but more that I wish that I'd practiced more. So I wish that I practiced more of the breathing so that it felt really natural
Hmm.
during labor, and the visualization and just finding things that worked for me, because it was still kind of like trial and error on the day. Like I had probably more things with me that I wanted to do, but I ignored like three-quarters of them.
Yeah.
But that was fine because what I had was like working for me.
Yeah.
So I I think, yeah, I think that I I would practice earlier, but personally, I felt pretty confident in I know what to expect. I know what I'm comfortable with, and I'm more confident with my choices, preferences. And same with like with George. I wanted him to have more of a clear idea of what worked and what didn't work, because it was, his first time as a birth partner with Alice. And I think that both of us needed to sort of hone in on like what was good and what to avoid.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. What would you want women listening to take away from your experience?
Be gentle with yourself and try somehow. And if you've got second or subsequent children, that's just super hard, but really try and prioritize yourself and find whatever time you can to do what works for you in terms of getting rest, space, like a chance to decompress or have movement or all of the above. But try and get in a good space and have good habits in place so that when interruptions come up, like nausea or pelvic girdle pain, that isn't totally derailed like it was for me.
Love that. Thank you, Mel. Thank you for chatting to me, not once, but twice. Thank you for being an amazing member inside FitNest. Thank you for allowing me to, come on your journey with you, and I guess allowing everyone who's listening today to join you on your journey. I really appreciate the time and, I guess just trusting us with your story. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope that it helps. I always really enjoyed listening to the birth stories, like especially before Alice was born. I listened to everyone that I could just to get a better idea of what could happen. So I hope that this helps.
Amazing. Thanks, Mel. Thanks for listening to the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast brought to you by FitNest Mama, your app for home-based, physio-led pregnancy and postnatal workouts. If you found this episode helpful, please tap follow, leave a quick review and share it to your stories. Tag at kathbequee.physio. I'd love to connect and cheer you on. And don't forget to check out the free trial at fitnessmama.com/free to start feeling confident, strong and supported today. Until next time, remember, a strong body, a confident birth and empowered recovery is something you deserve. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for individual medical advice, diagnosis or treatment. Please consult your healthcare provider for your personalised guidance.